Oh, come on! What's going on, everybody? Ed with the Broken Controller Club here, and for September I decided that in between streams and new games, I'm reviewing some older bad games based off TV shows. If you're too young to remember, before the age of streaming, the fall season of TV shows would start right around September. Cliffhangers could be solved, new characters and story arcs were introduced, and Fox would get new shows that they'd cancel within their first couple episodes. The Shield is a special game in that it was so bad that I didn't actually finish it, and honestly didn't really get all that far into it either. It was trash that after a while I got so frustrated with that I just couldn't go back into it after dying at the same spot repeatedly, but you're not watching this for some in-depth review, right? You want to know why it sucks? If you haven't watched the show, The Shield is about these cops in the LAPD that are members of this anti-gang unit called the Strike Team, led by Detective Vic Mackey, played by the awesome Michael Chiklis. The show takes place in LA, and basically these are corrupt cops who do pretty awful things like plant evidence, steal drugs and money, and Mackey kills another cop in the first episode, and that plays out over the whole series. I admittedly haven't watched very much of this show, but for what it's worth, the game felt pretty faithful to it, despite playing so poorly. That's about all I can say about this that's good though, so buckle up, Buttercup, because the rest of this is going to feel like you're the new guy in prison, and you just dropped the soap. So the game takes place between the third and fourth seasons of the show. The opening movie, when you start the game, has this last time on the Shield thing going on, and then it plays a ton of clips leading up to where you're starting at in the game. Now again, I haven't actually watched all of this, so I didn't know what the hell was going on, and the clips, in my opinion, they didn't really do all that great of a job helping me out with that. Now this isn't necessarily bad, it just means that the game is made for fans of the show, not really anybody else. It would be the same thing if you go to play Buffy on the Xbox without having watched that show first. So I'm not really even going to knock it for that. What I will knock it for is the quality of the video, which looks slightly better than if it were on the Sega CD. The PS2 can play DVD movies, so why does it look so grainy and noisy? It'll be hard to tell if you're watching this on a phone, but on a large screen, it looks really bad. The graphics themselves are pretty standard for PS2 action games like this, in that they all look kind of like Grand Theft Auto 3. Michael Chiklis easily looks the best out of the bunch, but then that's not really saying much because his face looks almost alien in close-ups. And speaking of close-ups, they try to mimic the TV show by bringing them in close on people's faces when dramatic things happen, and I felt like I was watching a Saturday Night Live sketch minus the trained seals and the audience laughing. Going through the game, you'll get to search cabinets and drawers, beds, all to find things like drugs, cash, or extra ammo. When you do this, you'll be forced to play this awful minigame where you have to direct the circle to a certain part of the badge that pops up in order for the search to be successful. You get almost no time to do this, and if you fail, part of the theme song plays, you hear Michael Chiklis swear, and then that's it. You can't retry the search again, you'll fail this repeatedly until you finally get it right by just dumb luck. I hope you like the theme song a lot, by the way, because basically every time you die or fail at something in this, it plays the same part of the song. I don't know why they wouldn't play that when you win something, but maybe the developer had a good reason. Or maybe they were drunk when they made this. Another question I had about this searching minigame is, why can't you just research the space again? Like, is he this poor at searching a kitchen cabinet that if he doesn't find what he's looking for within seconds, he just gives up and decides never to look in there again? Who is that impatient and gives up that quickly? You can also beat people up to get information out of them, but it doesn't actually kill them. You'll get to pound their face in and they'll be all black and blue, but then you have to actually grab them, bring them to an object that is required to torture them, then get the information out of them. Like this instance where I had to put a guy's face on a stove. The explanation of how to interrogate someone is vague about how to do it other than taking them to an object. It doesn't tell you to look for anything with a visual cue, so I just beat the hell out of this guy while I looked up a guide on my phone on what I was supposed to be doing. It turns out holding the punch button down lets Vic bash the guy repeatedly, so as any red-blooded American male knows how to do for most of his life, I use the phone with one hand while I use the other hand to, keep my hand on the controller. Dirty jokes aside, I must have punched that guy like 60 or 70 times while I looked up a guide on what to do. If this were real life, he would have been dead, brain fragments on Vic's fists from where his head got caved in. I think my favorite part is that the cops and the other bad guys just stood there and watched it all like it was normal. The stove was supposed to have a visual cue though, and it didn't actually have one, like no flashing or anything. So it was a lot of trial and error and dragging the perpetrator around while I looked for something that would let me use it on him. The controls are really clunky in this, and doing anything quickly is next to impossible. There's a part where you have to chase this guy down with Vic's partner Shane, and it starts with this shootout where if you don't crouch behind the wall, you're killed within just a couple seconds. No big deal, I mean they're guns, so I get it. You'll shoot the enemies and eventually kill them, and then Shane jumps the wall and heads around the corner and dies. Mission failed, shield theme music plays, you have to restart the section. So you do it again, this time knowing that you have to catch up with Shane and make sure he lives. What happens next? You try to hop the wall, but the game won't let you holster your gun to do it. Shane dies again. Now let's say this happens like 3 more times. You've taken your blood pressure medicine, maybe had a couple drinks, and you finally hop the wall, and for some reason Shane is randomly waiting for you this time. I look at my gun ammo and I'm like, oh, I have almost none, and I should look for some. And you hit the square button on one of the dead bodies. Well, guess what happens? You have to hold the button down for several seconds while Vic searches them. You know what else happens? Shane gets a hair up his ass and decides to run around another corner up ahead, and you guessed it, he dies. It took something like 20 tries to get past this part because this kept happening, and when I finally did, it was because I skipped searching bodies to chase after my retard partner, and I was almost out of ammo by that point. There's also some maddening stealth segments where you have to sneak by bad guys but you have no idea how good their vision is or where they can see, so it's all trial and error, and you will lose this repeatedly before you get it right. The camera is just as awful as the AI of your enemies in this, and it just doesn't stay focused in one spot, so you're constantly messing with it to try and see what's going on. Vic would also randomly try running to the right, and it felt like my analog stick was messed up, but of all the times I've ever played a game with this controller, it's only ever happened with this game, and when I die, it would be fine again. Also, I'm a nerd, and I clean my controllers. Moving right along, you'll also have other fun activities like beating people up with a phone book in the interrogation room, or you'll chase down criminals and get the lower half of your body stuck in the floor while running. That was not expected at all. And my personal favorite, going to get the phone book to beat the suspect up, and then you get blocked into a corner by this cop. I was here for like 5 minutes because he wouldn't fucking leave. So what's my verdict of The Shield? Well, my verdict is that it is a stupid pigeon game with bad controls and bad instructions to tell you how to use those bad controls. For a game that takes itself so seriously, it plays like a parody of any hardened cop show you've ever watched, but in reality I can honestly say that Bad Boys Miami Takedown is a much better game and that it's actually playable, and I would actually be happy to play that over The Shield, the game. If you don't know just what that means, watch my review of Bad Boys. It was part of my Bad Game Summer event that just ended, and it was a doozy. Michael Chiklis is still great though, regardless of this game. And that is all I have for today's review, but we've got more crappy TV show games to play here shortly, so make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. If you like streams and playthroughs of games as well, I'm doing that on my Twitch channel now, so make sure to follow me there at Ed from Broken Controller and come say hello. See you soon. Congratulations! You're one of an elite few to make it to the end of the video. Reward yourself by hitting the round subscribe button in the middle, and then check out the other goodies I've got and the links next to it.